20,000 ringgit is what differentiates this, the Perodua Alza, arguably the best value compact MPV currently on the market, to this, the Toyota Veloz, which is essentially a dressed up Alza. Now, many things are shared between these cars, but quite a number of things are also different. And we're going to explore all of that in this video. And if you enjoy our content, don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified every time we make a new upload. Now, we have to start naturally with the way these cars look, because although they may seem similar, and in terms of their bones and construction they are very similar, there are key differentiators in terms of their design. I'd argue that the Veloz is the more aggressive looking vehicle, whereas the Alza cuts a more elegant look. And personally, I kind of gravitate towards the Alza because I don't think that an MPV has any business looking aggressive. And while the Veloz does look a little bit different in terms of its slightly snazzier headlights, for example, in terms of technology, these cars are exactly the same. The only differentiator being the Veloz has daytime running lights, whereas the Alza has LED fog lights. The changes continue when you look down the side, because where the Veloz has a two-tone look to it with a black roof, the Alza only has black wing mirror caps. And then of course the wheels are different because the Alza runs 16-inch alloy wheels, whereas the Veloz runs on 17s. Notably, however, the tyres are exactly the same, Toyo Proxus CR1s, which means in terms of performance, quietness and so on, they remain the same, although the ride in this car is slightly harsher because of those larger wheels. And because they are wider, it does mean that fuel consumption is ever so slightly hampered, although if you'd like to learn more about that, you can watch our Toyota Veloz review video here. Now at the back, the only difference is the fact that the Veloz has a light bar and the Alza does not. Otherwise, they are exactly the same, sporting full LED rear illumination. Practicality is also the same because ultimately they are the same car. Although arguably on the inside, the Veloz does tip the Alza ever so slightly in terms of material quality, because the fabric upholstery in the Veloz is ever so slightly softer than what you get in the Alza. That said, however, the cloth seats in the Alza do feel like they will last a little bit longer, and of course if you would prefer leather, you can get a gear up leather upholstery option, although it's not actually leather, which is probably for the better because, you know, family car, people will spill things, it's easier to wipe and keep clean when it's not actually leather. In terms of interior specifications, the head units, the driver information clusters are all exactly the same. The only difference being that the Veloz has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and a wireless charger in the middle, whereas the Alza has neither of those things, but it adds on a center lock and unlock button, which I know seems small, but believe me, it makes a difference. Both of these cars also sport keyless entry and go, but the Veloz has an extra unlock feature on the passenger front door, whereas the Alza does not. The other thing in terms of practicality, which I forgot to mention, is the fact that the Veloz comes with roof rails. Now, you might think they're a design element, but the ones in this car are actually rated to carry up to 100 kilograms, whereas the Alza does not. So if you do intend to fill up your car and carry all your stuff and you need a roof box, you will likely be better suited in the Toyota Veloz. So even though these cars run the exact same powertrain, the Alza pips it ever so slightly in terms of fuel economy, which is why this car carries an EEV rated badge and this one doesn't. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the Veloz costs significantly more than the Perodua Alza, but as a result, it does mean that at the time of filming, the demand for this car is not quite as high, which means that affects delivery times. If you were to book either of these cars today, the Alza will take anywhere between 6 to 8 months to deliver, whereas the Toyota Veloz can be yours within 3 to 4 months. Pretty big difference if you ask me. And then the Veloz claws it back a little bit more by offering an unlimited mileage warranty, which means for 5 years you will never have to worry about any of the parts that come with this car breaking, because if they do, you can simply go back to Toyota, whereas Perodua's Alza is only covered with a 5-year, 100,000 kilometer warranty. In terms of actual raw cost, that does mean that in order to buy a Veloz over an Alza, you'll be putting down an extra 2,000 ringgit down payment, and over a 9-year loan, you'll be spending anywhere between 120 to 200 ringgit a month extra. But arguably, if you are one of those people who genuinely drive long distance on a very frequent basis and will likely run out of 100,000 kilometers within 5 years, then the Veloz does become the car for you. However, if you're like me and the majority of your drives are in town with only maybe a handful of outstation trips every year, and if you're willing to be a little bit more pragmatic and overlook the badge, the Perodua Alza continues to offer absolutely excellent value within the segment. Now, how do either of these cars stack up compared to the Mitsubishi Xpander and Honda BR-V? Well, it's very simple. Neither of those cars offer the active safety, neither of those cars have quite as efficient a powertrain, and weirdly, the Xpander has a 4-speed automatic gearbox. So, would I recommend either of these cars? Definitely. They are incredibly practical, very well built at the same factory, and they offer excellent levels of specification for the money. At the end of the day, it boils down to only two things: preference and budget, because really, it's the same. And of course, if you happen to buy any one of these cars, please don't throw animosity towards the other competing brand, because it's the same car. Okay? And so wraps up our very quick comparison between these two cars. If you'd like to know more about the Toyota Veloz, you can check out our full review up here. And of course, if you'd like to learn more about the Perodua Alza, you can check out our review of that car over here. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't, and hit the little bell icon so you're notified every time we make a new upload. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All the links are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for a fantastic 2022, and we'll see you next year.